Bluey is one of the few children's shows where the characters actually grow up with the audience. And that opens the door to some pretty interesting theories. One of the most popular ones is that, in the future, the main character will end up marrying her best friend, Mackenzie. And honestly, there are plenty of clues scattered throughout the series to support this idea. From the very beginning, Bluey and Mackenzie have always had a very close friendship, marked by affection and mutual respect. But in the episode Barky Boats, Winton says it straight. He thinks those two are going to end up getting married. And what makes this even more curious is that, in that same episode, the dynamic between Mia and Captain, two older kids, seems to mirror exactly the kind of relationship Bluey and Mackenzie could have in the future. If that's true, the romance phase between them will likely begin around age 12, right at that time when emotions start getting all mixed up and feelings begin to change. Kind of like Riley in Inside Out 2, you know? And if you're already curious about how this relationship might evolve into a marriage, then get ready, because that's exactly what we're going to explore in the next few minutes. So can you do me a favor? Grab your popcorn, subscribe to the channel, because another amazing zigzag video is about to begin. When Bluey and Mackenzie reach their teenage years, it's quite possible that their childhood affection could turn into something more. Instead of it starting with a simple school project, just imagine if it all began during a school camping trip, days away from their parents, nights under the stars. The perfect setting for them to start looking at each other in a different way. But realizing what you feel is only the beginning. Dealing with it is more complicated. Mackenzie, being more reserved, might start to pull away, not having the courage to say what he's feeling. Bluey, not understanding why he's acting differently, would think he's lost interest in their friendship, and the two would be left full of doubts for a while. That could easily fill an entire episode with clumsy advice from their classmates and an attempt by Bluey to move on. But in the end, they'd clear things up. Maybe in an honest conversation under the stars, and who knows, maybe even sharing their first kiss. The relationship would start off a bit awkward since they'd both still be figuring out what it means to be in a relationship. To keep things from getting too serious too quickly, they'd try to keep it all a secret. But we know that never works. Someone would catch on right away. The bet here is that Bingo would be the first to figure everything out. With how curious and observant she is, it wouldn't take long for her to notice the exchanged glances or the suspicious disappearances of the two. And even if she threw out a few teasing comments just to see her sister's reaction, deep down she'd want to protect Bluey's secret until she felt ready to tell everyone. But the plan to keep everything hidden wouldn't last that long. The one who would end up quietly discovering it would be Tilly, who, instead of talking directly to Bluey, would prefer to give one of those life lessons in disguise, just like the stories Calypso tells. With a metaphor here, a mysterious phrase there, she would help Bluey understand that there's nothing wrong with living this moment and that hiding it only makes everything more complicated. After that, the main character would finally work up the courage to tell the group. And only then would she and Mackenzie begin dating openly and lightheartedly in their own way. Are you already melting just imagining it? Then type the hashtag wedding in the comments so we can freak out together. Over the following years, Bluey and Mackenzie would go through that typical phase of young love, full of cute moments, silly little arguments, and reconciliations that make everyone sigh. But when high school came to an end and the college talk started getting serious, things would start to change. Not because of a lack of love, but because sometimes the future pulls each person in a different direction. Just imagine, Bluey gets accepted into a super prestigious university, the kind everyone dreams of, but it's really far from home. Meanwhile, Mackenzie gets into one that's closer, which already puts the couple at a crossroads. As torn as she would feel between staying close or grabbing the chance of a lifetime, Mackenzie himself would end up encouraging Bluey to go, even with a heavy heart. And the two would do everything they could to keep the relationship alive, with video calls, all-day messages, and weekend visits. The distance would become a challenge, but also a test of maturity for the relationship that began way back when they were still figuring out how they felt. If there's one thing this show knows how to do right, it's these tough moments in life. Would you get emotional watching an episode like that? Well, get ready. It gets even worse. As soon as college ended, it wouldn't take long for Bluey to catch the first flight back home. Reuniting with Mackenzie would be a priority, of course, and she'd probably spend a few months living with her parents again, until she could get settled. Once she landed a good job, the next step would be finding a place of her own, preferably close to her boyfriend, so they could finally start their life together. In this new chapter, the two would dive headfirst into the adult routine. work during the day, and more low-key hangouts at night, like a trip to the movies or a bowling night with friends. But now that Bluey's back for good, she'd start to notice how much things changed while she was away. A lot of the group would already be in relationships, some since forever, others with people they met later on. And the group dynamic would be different. Even so, couples like Rusty and Indy or Snickers and Coco could have gone from childhood friendships to real romances. And meanwhile, Rad and Frisky might already be far ahead, married and with kids running around the house. Can you imagine grown-up Bluey having to babysit a new little cousin or two? It would be a perfect tribute to the episode Double Babysitter, where Rad and Frisky took care of her and Bingo. But this time, it would be Bluey and Mackenzie looking after another little pup. Meanwhile, Bingo will probably follow the college path as well, maybe even alongside her best friend Lila. But everything suggests she didn't go very far, which makes sense since it's quite possible she kept living with her parents for a while longer. Unlike her sister, she might take a bit more time to start dating, but at some point she'll meet a special dog and end up falling in love. In fact, there's a strong theory out there saying that the little pup who appears at the end of the episode, Surprise, is actually Bingo's child, and not Bluey's. Whether the puppy is hers or not, it's pretty obvious that Bingo is going to do well in life, right? After all, we see her as an adult in that photo at her parents' house, just a few seconds before the new puppy shows up. What do you think is going to happen to Bingo in the future? All I know is that your questions will be answered if you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That's the only way to see our videos before anyone else. But back to talking about Bluey. As the years go by, Bluey will start to notice that her relationship with Mackenzie is practically a marriage already. After all, they share life together, day after day. And then comes that question. Is he ever going to pop the question? But knowing the style of the show, the message will probably be different. Instead of waiting, Bluey herself might decide to take the initiative and propose on her own. A simple but powerful way to show that there's no rule for this. And of course, Mackenzie would say yes without thinking twice. From that point on, the two would start planning the wedding, and it would be amazing if the show gave us a full episode dedicated to that moment. A fun chaos full of preparations, surprises, and emotion. Just the way Bluey does it best. The only episode that could top the preparations would be, without a doubt, the big wedding day. It would be that kind of special chapter that brings together everyone who's ever appeared in the show. Friends, family, teachers, even the most minor characters. A huge event, full of emotion, nostalgia, and with that perfect soundtrack playing at the moment of the kiss at the altar, while half the audience is crying and remembering Bluey's entire journey up to that point. And from there, the protagonist's life would enter a new phase. With the family growing, the arrival of the couple's first pup wouldn't be far behind. If they follow the same naming pattern as Bluey, whose name comes from the blue color of her fur, the child could very well be named Roxy. And even with all the energy and joy Roxy seems to have, as we saw in the episode Surprise, you can bet they'll also inherit Mackenzie's calm and laid-back nature. A perfect mix of the two.